School is supposed to be a safe place where you learn, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. And whenever there is a threat on campus, the entire school goes into lockdown where everybody hides. And today, we're checking out the 3 scariest lockdown stories of all time.
I somewhat recently got my first real job as a teacher at a public elementary school in a nearby neighborhood. It was the first school year I was teaching, and at this point it was only September, so needless to say, I was still learning the ropes.
Are there only 2 kids in this class? This is the sketchiest looking class of all time. Also, it's nighttime out. It's dark. Who is he teaching, bro? These are like the juvie kids or something.
It was honestly pretty stressful. I teach a first grade class of around 20 kids.
First grade?
You can imagine how chaotic it would get at times.
First grade, 20 kids, and it's nighttime. I don't know. I'm never gonna get over the fact that it's nighttime.
Especially with my lack of experience. I remember one day, I was in the middle of assigning the kids a worksheet for spelling simple words when the principal's voice came over the school's loudspeaker and ordered a lockdown. Now, being a new teacher, I wasn't yet informed of when the school had practiced lockdown drills around the year. Therefore, I had no idea if this was a drill or not. But I knew either way I had to follow protocol. I turned off the room's lights, locked the doors and windows, and had the kids sit against the walls out of—
You don't have to touch him though. I'm not trying to make this like a weird video like, oh, it's a weird teacher who touches his kids. You know, he doesn't have to. They just say, hey, yo, Jimmy, sit down. If he doesn't listen, then you just yell more, sit down, I said, gosh dang it, sit your butt down. You don't have to go up and start like rubbing his leg. What are we doing here? I just wouldn't be surprised if he did. I think it's the glasses, I don't know.
Sight. I'd say maybe 5 minutes passed of complete silence when I could faintly start to hear doors being banged on down the hall.
That's normally a good sign though, right? That means like the police are there?
I could feel my heart start to race as the sounds got louder as whoever was banging on the doors got closer. At this point, I still had no idea whether it was just the principal checking all the classroom locks or an actual intruder in the school. But my thoughts were interrupted by one of my students bursting out crying. It was too loud.
Okay, this is the point where you can touch him. But not in a weird way, like a just knock him out cold. Because at that point, like, you're saving your other students. So can you even get in trouble for that? Like if one student starts yelling, screaming, whatever, pretty much like giving up your position, and you drop him, bang! He's sleeping. He's snoring. Can you even get in trouble for that? Because the argument is that you're saving all of your other students by knocking this one's teeth out, you know?
There's no doubt whoever was outside would have been able to hear it. I could tell.
Nice,
the banging
dude.
outside stopped
idiot.
in response to the noise, shortly after, followed by a single pair of footsteps walking up to the door.
Who walks like that? This guy is weird.
It was silent for a few seconds, but the silence was quickly broken by a male's voice yelling out, "Hey guys, I think there's kids in this one." And that confirmed this lockdown was real. More footsteps could be heard running up to the door, and that's when genuine attempts to break down the door were made by multiple people. At that point, not a single kid in the class wasn't crying or screaming in fear. I didn't know what to do. I was never trained for this kind of situation. And that's when 2 gunshots could be heard. But it didn't come from the intruders. Police were now inside the building.
There you go.
Right after the shots were fired, the intruders could be heard running down the hall.
That's the worst running form I've ever
3
seen.
minutes later, and we were given the all clear. It turns out the intruders were 3 local high school students.
Oh, they got him.
They were eventually caught, but when asked why they did it, they would say close to nothing. Although, one of the kids claimed it was a bet, but personally I don't believe that for a second. No bet is worth going to court over and even possibly losing your freedom. I firmly believe they had much worse intentions. Although most likely traumatized, luckily no one was physically hurt. The shots that were fired by the police were claimed to have been warning shots and were aimed directly into the ground.
Lockdown video, we heard of this before where the police shoot warning shots. I don't believe that for a split second, bro. Police don't shoot warning shots. And what is a warning shot gonna do anyway? Just yelling at them does the same thing. That sounds silly.
And I still teach first grade at the same school and even in the same classroom. And to this day, those bullet holes can still be seen in the school's hallway.
All right, here we go. Next story. That one honestly wasn't even that bad. What is this one? If you tell me this guy's in first grade, I
When I was
swear.
in middle school. Technically, it was actually my last day in middle school. It was late May, And for our last day, our school would do a sort of field day where the whole school would play a bunch of games to celebrate the end of the school year. Now, back then, I used to be a pretty active kid, but unfortunately, due to a recent concussion, I was unable to participate in—
Why is he looking at his bandaged leg when he's talking about a concussion? Whew, this is like a rage bait video or something. Maybe he's so concussed that he thinks his leg is hurt. Maybe they're playing, you know, 3D chess while I'm on 2D checkers over here. But he's like, got a concussion, can't do field day today. I mean, look at it, look at my concussion, look at it.
I was pretty disappointed, yeah. Though I did bring my DS and quickly opted to just sit inside one of the classrooms and play that, as, I mean, there wasn't really anything else I could do. None of the teachers seemed to mind, so there I was, all by myself in the classroom for my science class playing my DS, all the while the other kids got to play games in the school's gymnasium. It was a weird feeling being in that classroom alone. I don't really know how to explain it. I mean, up until that point, I don't think I'd ever been in a classroom completely alone.
I'm sorry, this is so much of a side note, but I just have to say it. My blood pressure is through the roof at the moment. That left wall makes no sense. There's no door on the room, like it's just an open room into the hallway, but then there's also windows. Like there's windows to like the outside, but it's inside, and there's also no door to get into the classroom. Like, I'm gonna freak out. I can't.
Something that needs to be mentioned is that the teachers that weren't watching the kids in the gymnasium were in a room across the hall having meetings. I'd say I was playing on my DS for not even an hour.
Who is this person?
When my English teacher, Miss Allen, rushed up to the classroom's door and closed it from the outside. She didn't say anything to me, so I figured she just wanted to make sure I couldn't hear whatever the teachers were talking about across the hall. Forgetting about it, I went back to playing my DS. A couple minutes later, the classroom's door swung open. I expected to see one of the teachers coming in to check on me, but no, a man I'd never seen before walked into the room and closed the door behind him.
Oh.
The guy had to have at least been in his 50s.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
So I just assumed it was some kid's dad. It wasn't unusual for parents to come into the school to bring a student their lunch, so I asked if he was looking for someone. He replied with no, in a tone that seemed almost offended that I would even ask that question. Before I could say anything else, the guy started walking towards me. I asked him what he was doing, and that's when he lifted up his shirt, revealing a handgun on his waistband. He followed it up by saying, "Look, kid, I'm gonna need you to come with me, or I'm gonna kill you."
What did this kid do? Like, it seems like he was being targeted. This guy just ran like right up to him. Like, he knew that he was there. Like, why else would he pick that random room to walk into with the one kid who has a concussion on his knee?
The guy said it in the most carefree tone I had ever heard. And that, along with the fact that I'd never even seen a gun in person before, instantly overwhelmed me with pure fear. Before I could fully comprehend the danger of the situation I was in, the guy firmly grabbed my wrist and started pulling me towards the classroom door. But before we got into the hallway, the deafening sound of our school's lockdown alarm started going off. This was followed by the guy instantly letting go of my wrist and making a run for it down the hall and through a back exit. I stood there in shock for a second, but ultimately went back inside the classroom. I'm not sure how much time had passed.
Gotta go! Gotta skedaddle! Like, that was the goofiest. I need a replay of that.
For a sec, and making a run for it down. This was followed by the guy instantly letting go of my wrist and making a run for it down the hall and through a back exit. I stood there in shock for a second, but ultimately went back inside the classroom. I'm not sure how much time had passed when Miss Allen came back into the room and told me that she didn't want to scare me, but that there had been an intruder inside the building and a lockdown, which now was over.
So she knew that there was a lockdown and decided to leave a kid in a room alone? What are we talking about? Why didn't she just be like, oh, you come with me? I get like you don't want to scare the kid, sure, but be like, all right, yeah, come here, like quickly, just come here, just come follow me, come in, come here, we got some candy, just come follow me. This is a rage bait video.
I would tell her about the man. And instantly, she brought me to a police officer who was already on the premises to explain what I had experienced. It turns out the man was the whole reason the school went into lockdown in the first place. The man was reported to have been scoping out the school all morning, and when he was seen getting close to the building itself, someone would call the police, which resulted in the lockdown. The guy was later caught and would openly admit that he had been trying to scare kids into getting into his car so he could kidnap them. And this reality still horrifies me to this day. Not a day goes by where I'm not thankful for the school's alarm going off when it did.
I wonder like what that intruder's goal was, because he said like, if you don't come with me then I'm gonna kill you, right? So like, what was his go? Where did he want to take? Maybe he wanted to kidnap him? All right, boys, story number 3.
It was a completely normal, boring school day. I was in 7th period math, and the clock showed 2:45 p.m., which means the school day was nearly done. As it was a Friday, and spring break was just around the corner, you could feel everyone getting antsy in their seats. A lot of people had tests and whatnot, whereas my class got to have fun. We had a super laid-back teacher who loved to entertain us as much as possible. We lucked out in that sense. Me and my girlfriend Haley were messing around in the back, talking about something that occurred earlier that day. When it happened, the alarm for the lockdown went off, and the principal came over the loudspeaker. Now, for some context, typically a teacher would yell lockdown 3 times if it was a drill. We were always told if it was 4 times, it was not a drill. The reason for this was to hide the fact that we knew someone was in the building with malicious intent. 4 times we heard the word lockdown. Now, I've gotten so used to hearing it only 3 times that I paid no attention to how many times lockdown was even said. The teacher did the usual.
I don't think that was the case in my school. Honestly, I don't even remember what they said. I think it was just like one thing. Attention students, everyone is now on lockdown. But if there was a code like this school had, and I heard that code, I would get like instant goosebumps. I'd probably start freaking out instantly, I'm gonna be honest.
Turning off the lights, closing the door, and ushering us to the back corner of the room where we couldn't be seen from the glass on the door. Our classroom had 2 doors, one at the front and one at the back. In the midst of all the commotion, me and Haley did the one thing you should never do in a lockdown.
Kiss.
We snuck out of the class. We were now in the hallway on the 3rd floor. Everything looked so weird. Not a single person in sight other than the 2 of us.
You don't say.
A sort of humming noise came from the walls, indicating the school had cut all the power. I thought this was weird, as I thought it was only a drill. Hey, why would they cut off the power if it's just a drill? I asked. This was when we really started to question if it was actually a drill or not. But with us being stupid teenagers, we brushed it off as nothing.
Now they're making me mad.
When we started to hear a sound. We got really creeped out by this, as no one was supposed to be outside the class. Fearing it was a teacher, we ran into the nearest bathroom to hide. We ran into the 4th stall that was tucked into the corner and hid. We sort of just sat there, giggling, thinking we outsmarted the teacher. Maybe about 30 seconds had passed, and we started to hear the footsteps again, but this time much closer. My heart froze. We could tell it was right outside the door. At this point, we were sure we'd been caught. We kept as quiet and as still as possible, hoping not to make a sound. It was really weird though. The person outside hadn't come in yet, but they hadn't left either. If they left, we would have clearly heard their footsteps leaving, but we never heard them. Haley pointed this out to me, and that's when we started taking the situation a bit more seriously. The door opened, and someone stepped in. I was about to walk out of the stall and apologize for sneaking off when Haley stopped me. She whispered to me, "Isn't it protocol for teachers to ask if there's anyone in the bathroom?" She was right. This wasn't normal teacher behavior.
There's no way that the intruder didn't hear that. That must have been a really good whisper, like one of these ones. Like, ear is here, right? This is the ear, and like, she had to be like up in here, like this, like this. It would literally have to be like this. Because, like, there's no other noise in the entire school. They're on lockdown. You can hear everything. That would, like, she must be an elite whisperer. Some people are terrible whisperers. She must be goated. Anyway, these guys are dead for sure.
And that's when the heart-dropping realization hit us. Whoever was in the bathroom with us wasn't a teacher. While contemplating what to do, the silence was broken. "I know you're in there."
Bro, what?
Dropped as the person said that. The voice was younger.
Oh my God.
Obviously wasn't a teacher. We were practically crying at this point, unable to hold it back. The guy was now directly in front of the stall door. He started pounding on the door and screaming like a madman. As this was happening though, I heard the door open again, followed by the familiar voice of my teacher, Mr. Taylor. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I heard a scuffle outside, and I immediately rushed to aid my teacher. Eventually, we got the guy held down, and the cops were called.
That old man took him down? Did that guy not have a weapon? How did he not have a weapon?
Eventually, we got the guy held down, and the cops were called. Apparently, the man was an escapee from a mental asylum near the school.
Oh, so you just lost.
No one got hurt.
Poor guy was just lost. See, a lot of times the bad guys are not always bad, they're just misunderstood. I will admit though, that one was by far the creepiest one. Yeah, that would have really freaked me out. I hope that those kids learn their lesson though, and never sneak out of class during another lockdown. But anyway guys, that is it for today. If you want me to watch even more horrifying lockdown stories, let me know by supporting supporting this video with a like, a subscribe, and by clicking on this video right here.